Hello everyone and welcome to this DOM Labs tutorial where we are going to be learning how to add Coyote time and input buffering into your game. If you do not know what that is, let me show you. Here I have a sample scene set up that inside my player, and then whenever he jumps, instantiates a little black box right there. You can see here that my player can jump right before and just right after he leaves the edge, and that he can jump just over this ledge. But what we want to do is we want to make it so the player has a little bit of buffer time in between him leaving the edge and him pushing the jump button so that he can jump while he's not on the ledge. You can see that I can't do that now and I just fall off. Also, if my player, when he jumps and he clicks the jump button again before he hits the ground, he won't do anything. You can see that I push the jump button and push it again. Push, push, my player does not jump. What I want to happen is that when I push the jump button again, the player will jump so that the input times are a little bit buffered. So we can do that by opening up our player controller script. You can see here that I have just a sample script set up for movement, and I have a sample script set up for flipping my character, and then I also have a little code right here that instantiates a little box whenever I push the jump button. Up here at the top, we're going to have to create some more variables. The first one's going to be a public float. This one's going to be Coyote time. We can set this to something like 0.2f, and then the next one is going to be a private float, and this is going to be Coyote timer. This will be the timer so that every 0.2 seconds after we leave the edge, we are able to jump. We're going to do the same thing for the input buffering. So we're going to create a public float, and this is going to be called input buffer. I'm going to set this as 0.2f2, and then another private float, and this one's going to be input timer. Now we're going to have to do some things inside of the update method. We're going to have to create an if statement. So if we are grounded, what we're going to do is we're going to set our Coyote timer set to our Coyote time, so that whenever we are on the ground, our timer keeps on resetting. But when we're not on the ground, so else if not is grounded, then we're going to do our Coyote timer, subtract it equal from time.delta time, so that this can just be like a timer that counts down whenever we're not on the ground. And then what we're going to do is, instead of checking is grounded, we're going to check if the Coyote timer is greater than 0. If the Coyote timer is greater than 0, then that means it has been less than 0.2 seconds before the player or after the player has left the ground. Then we can jump. So here I'm just going to after this I'm going to set my Coyote timer back to 0 because we're not on the ground, so we shouldn't be able to jump again. Now we're going to have to do the same exact thing with our input buffering. So if we push the jump button, so input.get key down, keycode.space, or whatever key you have for your jump, then we are going to set our input timer to be equal to our input buffer. And this is just whenever we push the space button, we have a little bit of amount of time, we have a little bit of leniency when we push the space button, and then we will jump. But when we're not pushing the space button, we're going to set our input timer, subtract equal from time.delta time. And then we're going to do the same thing in this. Instead of checking for when we push space when we jump, we're going to check if our input timer is greater than 0. And if it is, then we're just going to set our input timer to be equal to 0. And then I'm also going to take this little line that instantiates our box and put it in when we push space in here, so that you're able to see when I push space and then when I jump, because those will be two different things. So once we have all of this code written, we can go back inside of Unity. And then once we're back inside of Unity, we can go to the player, make sure that all of this is good. The Coyote time is 0.2 and the input buffer is 0.2. Just for testing purposes right now, I'm just going to bump these up to something like 0.4. In your real game, you wouldn't want to have something like 0.4 because then the player would just be able to jump when he's not on the ledge, and it just wouldn't be a good system. But now we can click the play button, and when we're in play mode, we can see here that I can just jump and then click the jump button. You can see that where that box is where I click the jump button, and then I can just click the jump button and it jumps again. And then I can jump off the ledge. You can see here that that box is clearly off the ledge, and then I am jumping. You can see that the 0.4 seconds is a lot, but it's just here for testing purposes. If you wanted something more like 0.2 or some 0.15, then that would look something more like this, so that the player just have a little bit of jumping time and then a little bit of time to jump right there before he can jump again. But you can see how this benefits your game in multiple ways. There's really no reason not to implement this inside of your game, because it makes your game feel so much more responsive. And with that, this tutorial is finished. If you like this tutorial, please give our channel a like and a subscribe, because it really helps out a ton. Thank you!